Welcome to the Nerdist Podcast number 908. Let's go to the phones. You know why I say let's go to the phones? Like it's a telethon? So what people don't understand is that when Katie reads, you know, if you email events at nerdist.com, when Katie reads the Nerdist Community Corkboard, she's reading it off of her phone. So this is still an accurate thing to say of like, let's go to the phones. Katie is literally going to her phone. First, I want to say I'm going to be performing at the American Comedy Company in San Diego at the end of October, and in the beginning of November, I think the 8th, 9th, and 10th, I'm going to be at Caroline's as part of the New York Comedy Festival. So go to get tickets to those things, you guys. And I'll see you at Comic-Con this weekend in New York. I'm going to be doing the Walking Dead panel, as you may have guessed. Katie, to the phones!
User Tevez17 on Reddit says, my wife is a primary school teacher in Melbourne, Australia. She is extremely passionate about creating new lessons and resources with a strong focus on hands-on activities to allow her students to be physically engaged with their learning. She recently started posting her work to teacherspayteachers.com, where she has been getting great feedback. I believe her work would be extremely helpful and inspirational for fellow teachers, so he wanted to share it with us in case there's any teachers that listen to the podcast. So you can go to teacherspayteachers.com and look up Mrs. Whitty's World, and that's WHITTYS. And then user Mark Watton says, I know this sounds like way too much of a dad thing to do, but my daughter is a singer-songwriter who's been working hard on her first EP and has released the first 2 songs on Bandcamp to help raise money to finish the album. If anyone in the community would like to check out her Bandcamp and maybe buy a tune for 99 cents, it would make her really happy. And you can look her up at iliananora.bandcamp.com, and that's ILLIANNANORA.bandcamp.com. And I just think that's so sweet that the dad wrote in.
That's really sweet. This episode today brought to you by Audible. Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedies, and more from the leading publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, business information providers. So unlike a streaming or a rental service, you actually own your books. So you can access them anytime, anywhere from almost any device, including your iPhone, iPad, Android, Amazon Fire, tablets, Windows Phone, and it'll pick up wherever you left off.
That's so nice.
Across any platform. Yeah, Audible makes traffic an escape. You know, this is what I do. I listen to audible books in traffic.
Yeah.
Because there's more construction in LA than I feel like ever. Because we're trying to build this cockamamie subway that someday will be done. And so there's a lot of traffic. And so I listen to, instead of the same playlist over and over again, I listen to audiobooks and try to fill my brain with fun new things. Access an unbeatable selection of bestsellers, mysteries, thrillers, and motivations. Transform your commute. Ride with Audible. I think I know my book's on Audible.
Yeah.
Can I just plug my own book? I read my own book. You know what? Let's plug Whitney's book. Whitney Cummings is our guest today. Her book is I'm Fine and Other Lies. Get her book on Audible. She read it. I think it's great when comics put their books on Audible because you can hear them read their own stuff. Get a free audiobook with a 30-day trial at audible.com/Nerdist. That's audible.com/Nerdist for a free audiobook. Audible is commemorating 20 years of storytelling, all made possible by you, the listeners. To celebrate, they're turning over the microphone, inviting you to enter their contest and tell us why you love to listen to Audible for a chance to win one of 20 brand new Volvo SUVs. Go to audible.com/audible20 to share your Audible story. So, as I said, this episode, Whitney Cummings, a dear, dear, dear friend of mine whom I adore. I can't say enough wonderful things about her. She's the fucking coolest. And I'm so happy and lucky that we're friends. We've been friends for years. I always loved having her on at midnight. She was amazing every time she came on because we're just such good friends that we just had a great shorthand when she was on the show. And this hour-ish of podcasting was so much fun. And I'm so proud of her, all the work she's doing. She's show-running Roseanne right now. She's written this book, I'm Fine and Other Lies, which is available wherever books are sold. And she's here on the Nerdist Podcast. So here's Nerdist Podcast number 908 with Whitney Cummings. Katie, roll it.
Now entering Nerdist.com.
Got Invisalign.
It's in my purse.
Yeah.
I have. Is it in right now? I took it out.
I took it out so I could talk on the
Same,
podcast.
because I get a lisp.
I've only, this is my second one. I just did the first,
Oh, wow. You're only in your second set?
12 days.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's big.
Yeah.
Is it cutting the inside of your mouth?
It was the first couple days, and then...
Take a nail file to it.
Good idea.
Just polish down the sharp areas.
And then the first morning I took it off, it felt like tiny henchmen beat the shit out of every tooth in my head.
This is actually really breaking my heart. I thought the whole point of getting married was you didn't have to keep improving yourself. Like, why now?
Well,
you got her. You have it in writing.
It's what I always have this sort of long term. I started working out when I was in my early 30s because I was like, I don't want to hit 50 and then be like, I better turn this fucking
ship around.
But the ship's
This
already,
Titanic,
it's already upside down.
Yeah.
And so, my top teeth are straight, my bottom teeth are a little crooked.
You know what?
Not
I have
bad.
to be honest, I like it.
No, but
I like it. It's charming.
I'm worried.
You're like an Englishman.
Oh, yes. But I'm worried that in 10 years, it'll just look like, Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
It's just going to be all this weird.
It's going to look like a graveyard.
So I thought, it's 10 months.
Let me get ahead of it.
11 months.
I have this one tooth in the front that everyone's going to think I'm neurotic and have body dysmorphia, which I do.
Just
want to get ahead of it.
And you're right. However, this is under...
And I have this one tooth that turns out, and basically my guy was like, look, it's right now it's kind of charming. In 15 years, you're gonna look like a witch. So you got to get ahead of it. That was the whole thing.
Hey, that's very witchist. I mean, it's
Look,
witches look like you and me.
Look,
Why
they
do
really
they have
do.
to have fucked up teeth.
Yeah, I can't, they all look the same.
But what's interesting is that because I ran into a friend at a wedding yesterday, and I was showing him oh yeah, I got the thing. He goes, I was thinking about doing it. He goes, because my teeth are all fucked up. His teeth look perfect.
Perfect.
And he goes, yeah, but when you look at them, you can see that the top two don't line up perfectly with the bottom two. And I was staring, and I finally was like, I guess it's over a little bit. And this guy's this is the bane of his existence is his teeth don't, but no one would notice it. And it's so comforting because you go, all the stuff that you obsess over about yourself and you zero in on when you see the mirror, no one else sees that stuff.
You know what they say? They say if you were to see yourself out in public, you wouldn't recognize yourself.
Probably not.
That's how dysmorphic we all are about our faces.
Because we don't see
Magnify
the whole
flaws.
picture. We see magnified flaws, and we kind of see
Is he on television? Just curious.
He's a comic.
Okay.
Yeah,
I also think it's not particularly healthy to see a reflection of yourself constantly being on television. I don't think we're designed to see our image blown up on high def all the time.
Yeah.
It exacerbates, I think, our neuroses. And I have this theory that I'm working on, absolutely no scientific proof.
No, listen.
whatsoever.
No one needs science.
We are not designed to look in mirrors. There are no mirrors in nature. Ice is not a mirror. True, it doesn't count. Ponds don't count.
Not a brook. What about Narcissus?
Yes, exactly. A brook that is perfectly placid, maybe, but you still have a little bit of a Photoshop situation in a pond.
I guess if we were to exist without mirrors and natures, we'd just be picking mites off each other's faces
Constantly.
and eating them.
Yes.
And
we wouldn't have to have plastic surgery.
We'd groom each other.
Yeah. I feel like we'd all have much higher self-esteem. This whole constantly taking selfies and posting and mirrors and stuff cannot be healthy.
I'd never actually thought about it before, but I would love, and I guess thanks to the internet, I will do this as soon as the podcast is done, but I would love to really explore the evolution of the mirror.
Yeah.
And when it really came in, in the history of Homo sapiens, when it came into being and how it wove into our culture and affected our evolution.
And it's fascinating because I wonder because I'm obsessed with neurology stuff, and we are designed to find flaws because our brain obviously has not evolved to catch up with modern technology and
boy, we're really doing that one well.
I just mean Purell and Dial soap and all this stuff. So it used to be if you had a zit or something, it was that could be a infection, that could be something fatal. Whereas now it's you put some Neosporin on it, it's good. So it's we are kind of designed to magnify and obsess over our flaws.
Well, that's all capitalism too. That's all the commercial. It's
right.
I
need all these products.
This company is going to tell you what your problem is and then give you the solution for it at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically, it's commercializing that sort of need to have sex that we have is like, oh, you better be
Right.
perfect.
Improve.
What does that mean?
I don't know what you're talking about. I feel really good about myself. I don't spend money to buy self-esteem. I don't know what
Well,
you're
wait a
talking
minute,
about.
because your book.
Speaking of things that you need to buy.
Yeah, I'm fine and other lies. I don't know. So you're sure you're okay?
I'm not.
Because it says in the title.
I'm hanging by a thread. No, I mean, I've known you for a long time.
Long time.
Really long time.
Yeah.
And I think something happened to me. You have the unique privilege of knowing me back when I was a sleepwalking zombie. And something happened to me when I was like 28 where I was like, okay, I have this premonition that being crazy is not cute in your 30s. Like, I feel like I can get away with this in my 20s. I'm like quirky, I'm wacky, I'm like the silly girl who's like such a mess. Like, guys love it. Everyone wants to rescue me. But in your 30s, it's just not a good look.
Oh, that's so funny.
So then I was like, okay, like, let me get ahead of this. There's a lot of things out of my control. Like, I only eat raisins for 6 months at a time.
Doctors have been telling us for years to go on the raisin-only diet. I mean, I'm tired of...
Why do I have so many cavities? Why do I go to the gym for 4 hours at a time? Jeff Goldblum next to me, that's another story.
Can I please I just picture you waking up every morning and just hearing just in the back of your head, just being summoned by the California raisins and hearing, I heard it through the grapevine every morning as your alarm clock.
You guys don't see me, but I am doing the dance right now.
Yeah.
Do we have to buy that song in order to sing
think
it?
so.
Okay.
I think it's okay. Yeah, I think it's okay.
And I just was like, I had all these social anxiety stuff, and I was in really bad relationships that I thought were great ideas. I was like getting guys sober, teaching guys how to read. I mean, it was just like, it was like thinking it was true love. It was not. I'm like in downtown learning Spanish so I can get drugs from drug dealers. Like, It was just not a good look. And
at least you learned another language.
At least exactly. I know
how to buy meth
I know
in
how
Spanish.
to say stop giving him cocaine in Spanish.
Get the adrenaline shot in Spanish.
No, I learned how to say, "Can I hit your PayPal?" in Spanish. And so I was just like running on adrenaline. I was always sick. I was just like, I was just not in good shape. I didn't have healthy friendships. So I was diagnosed with something called codependence. I'm clinically codependent, which is like when you grow up in a dysfunctional home, which I think we all probably have on some level. I don't want to pretend that I'm so different and such a victim, but I had this condition, and essentially the kind of clinical definition is the inability to tolerate other people's discomfort, and you usually confuse love and pity.
Sure.
You know, so instead of like having a relationship with like that you and like Lydia have, where two equals decide to consensually be together, I would like pick up people off the street, and I was like a talent agent from the 20s. I would see potential in someone, and I'd be like, I'm going to make you a star. And I would take in these sort of messes, and it gave me purpose, and it gave me adrenaline, and it recreated my childhood circumstances. And I was like, I need to do something about this. So I went into therapy about it, and because here's what I thought. I was like, oh, I'll just like read some inspirational quotes. That'll do it. Don't ask for a light load, ask for a strong back.
Read some Kathy cartoons.
Yeah, you know, some Marilyn Monroe memes.
The hang in there poster with the kitty on the clothesline.
Totally.
Every morning.
Like, that'll do it. And it didn't. It doesn't change your neurology. So I sort of went into this crazy mental revamp. And so I kind of wanted to write the book that I wish had been available to me back then. I realized I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of eating stuff. I had a lot of body stuff. And I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know I was allowed to have flaws. You know, we're comedians. We sort of master the art of, like, pretending everything's fine and laughing things off. And I was in a lot of pain.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's, you know, the comedy is, I think, mainly a coping mechanism.
What?
I mean...
What? Now you tell me. Yeah. It's a defense.
Do you ever worry that... this is a weird question, but do you ever worry that you know too much? Like, that you have... too much, like my doctor, our internist, I always say to my wife, because it was her doctor first, and then I went to see him, and he's great, but he gives you a lot of information. I'm like, I don't know if it's healthy to know this. Because I know too much, then maybe I'm going to self-fulfilling prophecy, or I don't know.
Well, then the cortisol that I produce, stressing out about the thing you just told me that I probably don't
Even the
have.
fact that you just said cortisol.
Yeah. Is raising your cortisol levels, which we've essentially, because what I learned, this I think was helpful to me. Both of my parents had strokes within like 2 years of each other, and I had to learn a lot about neurology very fast. I was their power of attorney, and doctors were basically like, so do you want us to do the MRI on the frontal lobe or on the hippocampus? And I was just like, I'm 28.
Yeah.
I'm a 28-year-old comedian.
Yeah.
Please don't ask me questions about whether someone's going to live or die. And so I had to learn all this stuff about neurology. And I learned about this thing called epigenetic imprinting, which is essentially that the neurochemicals that your mother produces when you're in utero are the chemicals that you are born addicted to, the same way if a mother did crack.
Right.
You know, a crack baby is born addicted to crack. You have to give them crack and wean them off it, right? And so if you are have a lot of adrenaline and cortisol while you're in utero, you're born addicted to those things, and you spend your life trying to like recreate that equilibrium, right? So if your mother was very stressed out and had a lot of adrenaline, you're constantly like, you know, like a magnet moving towards chaotic situations, creating chaos if there is none. And that's kind of what I feel like I was doing. I was constantly in chaos, yet complaining that I was in chaos and wanted to get out of it, but I just didn't know how.
Right.
I had to lower my tolerance for adrenaline and cortisol.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting because you really do seek out, like, you really kind of populate your life with whatever is comfortable, and it doesn't matter what it is.
Yep.
I mean, it can be, it's because especially in your 20s, you know, for me, as I started to get older, I realized that that drama wasn't passion, and it would sort of alludes to what you were saying about
Great
in your
point.
20s.
I used to conflate passion with
high highs, low lows,
yes,
up and down.
I thought that's what was a relationship supposed to be like. Yeah.
Oh, this is so hot.
Yeah. And it was like the butterflies in my stomach. Like, no.
You know what's really hot
he's
now?
an alcoholic.
What's really hot now is like, we're in bed by 9.
I know,
We,
the best.
yeah,
The best.
I know you're going to be super. You're going to be super stable tomorrow. I'm going
Yeah.
to feel okay tomorrow. That's super hot.
The best. Some more magnesium. Let's take our fish oil.
Sleepy time tea.
The best.
Fucking fish oil. I just took it. Oh,
yeah.
God.
Where's my Invisalign, honey?
Boy, listen, I may get an erection when I get fish burps from
God.
the omega-3.
To me, that is like most people's Coachella. Like just in bed, watching Sherlock, hand cream,
Well, yeah.
Crest white strips.
You're right. It's not. I mean, it is, and you know, like when I talk to people who are decide to get sober, like, you know, when you're in your 20s, it seems fun to be exactly what you said, but you know, picture it drinking all the time in your 30s, and then your 40s, and then your 50s. Like, it just there's a sadness.
Well, it's also
scale.
at a certain point you're just pickling yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a pickled human.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I think the hardest part of getting my journey was getting like emotionally sober, because what we call it is the internal drug cabinet.
Of
because
course.
adrenaline turns into dopamine, which is the same.
Boy, emotionally sober is such a great way.
You can
to
be
put
sober
that.
and not emotionally sober. You can not drink or not use whatever your drug of choice is. So I talk in the book a lot about I was essentially diagnosed with love addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know what that even is. I thought addiction was substances only, but it's the same neurochemicals,
Right.
that you're getting from a person or a dramatic situation as
Right.
you would from a bottle. So it was just this insane thing where I agree with you that I don't want to know too much information, but like enough to sort of have an understanding of.
But isn't that because it's a weird thing to say, because you think, oh well, more information is better. But I think, and at the core of it, I think all anyone with addiction at the core of it, there's a base level of it's obsession and control, and
Yep.
and so you
Yep.
can obsess about anything.
Yep.
And so if you start getting obsessed with like, I need to know the minutia of every chemical.
That's controlling,
Are you
yeah.
are you sort of creating? How do you know between what you're diagnosing and then what you're manifesting and creating?
100%. And I think for me, it's like, that's why it's like I'm in, whatever. I have just a compendium of books and healers getting me through it each day. But, I think for me, it's like I had this sort of woman come over because I did a lot of damage to my body, and I'm trying to kind of like, get out of the woods on that. And so she basically comes in and she tells you all the things in your house that are killing you.
Oh no! This is like the news.
It's a nightmare. Yeah, is your drinking water killing your new baby? We'll tell you after the commercial. And you're like, God damn it!
Fuck.
I don't even have a baby, and I want to know the
Shit,
answer.
it's dying.
It's dead.
God
It's
damn
dying.
it! My fake baby's dead. Great. Fucking great.
It's going to kill your future baby
Thanks,
that no
water.
man wants to sire.
Sire. That was very formal.
Yeah,
The
look,
news.
it's in your house. I'm just feeling so regal.
So what did this woman say?
Oh, yeah. So basically she comes in and she, like, well, it's really funny because she, like, opens your cabinets and she's just like she gasps at all your stuff.
Don't do that.
Like, it's just like, don't
Just say, like, what I should have and
olive
not
oil.
have.
It's like,
yeah.
because now olive oil, it's carcinogenic if you cook it too hot.
for
I'm just like,
fuck's
God damn
sake.
it. It's like avocados are fattening. It's like, kill yourself. So anyway, she basically was going through and, like, soy milk is bad. I thought I was killing it. I get soy milk, I get almond milk, and she's like, you're drinking soy milk? And I was like, yes, I am. Do I win something? And I guess it has lecithin in it, which is not good for you. She vets brands as well, so she tells you which olive oil to buy because this sounds really elitist. I know that as I'm saying it, but I have a lot of
Gwyneth.
Healing to do. So disconnected. Look, you guys, I don't have children. I don't have anyone that loves me. I'm just trying to get through the day. I promise you this is a mandatory thing. Okay? The crystals I have in my house are not that expensive.
You can get them at any
You can get them like
corner
at
healing shop.
any home like apothecary. I
Yeah.
can have my assistant send you the number.
You can go to any psychic eye bookshop and get any of these things.
You can go to any amethyst cave in Monaco, and they have them.
It's not. The guides aren't even that expensive.
I swear to God, this woman, she's like $150. She comes to your house one time. It's not that big of a deal. And anyway, so she's walking me through all the things that I'm not allowed to eat because
Sure.
they're all everything that we think is good for us is terrible for us. And then finally, we get to the point where I was like, she could tell I was like having an overwhelm of panic, and she was like, look, here's the deal. The worst thing for you is releasing cortisol, which is stress. That's ultimately what's killing us because it breaks down collagen. And she's like, so if you're in an airport, which we are all the time,
Yes.
and you can't find something to eat, she was like, the stress of worrying about what you're eating is way worse for you than just eating the thing that's not good for you.
Got it.
So producing cortisol is the worst thing. So that made me feel...
I mean, there's no question that stress, your body just can't. I mean, because the stress really just is always running on a program in the background.
Oh, yep.
And so it's sort of figuring out. But the interesting thing is we get addicted to it.
Yeah.
And so we go like, well, I don't want to stress, but then I feel like my body wants to stress. It's like, how do you?
Well, that's my equilibrium. Like I had to do like 28 days no texting, 28 days no, like I had
How'd that go?
Not great.
I mean, I meant that not sarcastically, because I'm curious to know, like, people go, just unplug.
Shut up. That's for, like, only my unemployed friends say that. No one I know with a job has ever said, just unplug. I have bills, I have healers.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I have crystal people. No, I mean, look, I really was, my life was not going well, and so I was desperate to kind of do anything. I had to do 28 days no complaining. I had to do 90 days no contact with family. Like I really, and I talk about it in the book, like what worked and what didn't and what the journey was like. But it was like when your, neural pathways are like so ingrained with all the survival mechanisms and the core beliefs and the social construction, the conditioning, I just had to like completely reparent myself because I made 2 therapists gasp.
What is it with gasping?
I don't know. It's really, I know. And the food lady. So I started realizing, like, whoa, like this is, and I thought it was funny, Like I was like, hey, I'm so crazy, and my dad just did this, and my sister's going through this, and I just went through this, and everyone was like, that's not funny. That's like very sad. And like, do you need help? And I didn't know how to ask for help. I thought I had to be tough, and I'm fine was my motto. And I thought suffering was just how I thought life had to be really hard and painful. But then my body started giving up on me. I was like getting pneumonia. My chest started splitting open. I was getting like chronic migraines. Like it was I hit like a physical rock bottom with my health. And I think it's hard, especially in our job and the way that we do this like 24-hour news and texting and stuff. Like we're out till 2 a.m. doing stand-up, and then we get up and we write all day, and we're on planes every other day. Like I just, I was living like a pretty unhealthy sort of lifestyle and putting myself in really dangerous situations.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to sit down and be still with yourself.
Well, that's the thing. You were talking about obsession earlier. It's like anything to not have to feel my own feelings.
It's really freaky to have to calm down And be like, wait, this is it? This is just it.
This is it. This is...
There's no up, there's no down. It's just kind of...
Well, also this, I mean, I don't know if you relate to this or not. Feel free not to. But stand-up is like, it's very addicting.
Sure.
And, once you sort of, I did the math on it, and I was like, what is making me need to make strangers like me so much? Like, I mean, it's not even just like I want strangers to like me. It's like every 20 seconds we're like, do you like me now? Do you like me now? What about now? Do you still like me? What about now? You kind of like me before 20 seconds ago. That was not like, I mean, constantly. And I had a really hard time delineating being on stage and being in life. And I found myself trying to get approval of others all day long, and it was exhausting and draining, and I felt like I was being inauthentic and pretending, and I didn't know how to break that cycle, because I had to do that so much as a kid.
Were you ever worried that, or let me ask it this way. If you had the choice between, hey, I'm totally fine, totally well-adjusted, don't really feel like I got to do stand-up anymore, like, do you feel like those things are mutually exclusive, or do you feel like it...
That's a really great point, because I did have this thing in my head where I was like, I don't want to get healthy because I won't be funny.
Right.
That was a big way that I justified staying sick for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm not going to be funny, and like, what am I going to talk about? And I was right. I'm way less funny. I have to do like 2 weeks of press, and I'm like going on talk shows. I have no stories about falling off. I broke, like, in my throes of codependence and my rock bottoms. I like fell, like I pretended I knew how to snowboard when I did not know how to snowboard. I broke my shoulder. I used to always be in these really scary yet hilarious situations, and I'm going on talk shows. I'm literally like, so the other day my dog did the funniest thing. Like, I'm so boring.
Conan, did you know that soy milk is actually really bad for you? We'll be right back.
Tonight, Whitney Cummings is on Conan talking about soy milk. Like, I do think that I'm less funny, or I have less funny stories.
Just because, but
yeah, because I'm not in crazy situations anymore.
And that's why I wonder sometimes, like, comics who get older.
Yeah.
Go, I don't know what it is. They don't really do stand up anymore.
Yeah.
I saw them and it wasn't as great. And it's like, maybe they're just comfortable and happy.
What a nightmare.
Maybe they just got used to themselves.
Yeah, it's tricky because I'm getting my emotional needs met in healthy ways now.
Yeah.
And so I find myself being like 8 o'clock at night and I have to go do stand up, and I'm like, I don't want to
go.
Which is probably a healthy take.
Right.
When you're like, I gotta get on stage. That's like a little bit.
Work this shit out.
Yeah, like, come on, look at me. Pay me money to yell at you. I mean, it's definitely a maladaptive behavior, but I am developing a new relationship with it that's not so compulsive and needy. And I took like a year off of doing stand up.
That's cool.
Because I also felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was doing like an impression of myself, and sometimes you outgrow what you're doing and you have to just like,
you gotta reset,
regroup.
I didn't actively stop doing stand up for like a year, but I kind of did just because my schedule was so crazy. And now I'm starting to tour again, and it's like, oh yeah, pulling all the new material and trying to figure it out. Like, I don't know if I remember how to do this.
It's so weird. And then I'm kind of like, I know this is going to be funny, but I feel like I'm kind of pretending.
Right.
Where you're like, this is funny ostensibly, and I know I can get laughs on it, but it's actually not true. Like, I'm kind of in this place where I'm trying to only say things that are actually true and that I actually believe and that feel like different, so I just have like a much slower process.
Listen,
now.
I think I'm even jealous of that. I'm looking at stuff going, yeah, I don't know, this isn't gonna fucking cares about any of this.
I mean, if you care about it, I think they care about it ultimately.
I don't know. Did you see Seinfeld's special?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I was just listening to him on
great.
Howard, and that was his set from like 30 years ago, right?
Well, he what's really great about it is that it's very biographical. Like, I've never seen his material presented in in an autobiographical way.
Yeah.
And so, he talks about when he started, and it's done in the club that he started in.
That's amazing.
So
Stand
to
Up New
see
York.
someone do, like, comedy really should be in an intimate club setting. It's fun to do theaters, but it really should be in a club.
The greatest. It's Comic Strip or Stand Up New York?
It's Comic Strip.
Comic Strip.
And it's great. And he like, the jokes actually tell the story of how he started, and so it really just gives all of it an interesting story and weight and stuff that, and he's obviously the greatest living comics in the history of comedy, but to see the jokes have that kind of meaning and weight, it was really fascinating because it's woven in with all sorts of cool stuff.
And that annoys me because he's so good that it makes me be like, I can't do any of this. He raises the bar so high, but yeah, he's so surgical. and precise, and everything is, I was just listening to him on Howard Stern, and he was talking about how he'll spend 10 minutes on a syllable.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the danger is because it's very difficult to measure your progress.
Yeah.
And so it's very enticing to, live comparatively to other. Oh, I could never do that. I would never do that. But I think really the trick that we have to overcome is really just being the best the most specific you that you can be.
Well, I think also something that is so great about watching you perform is I feel like I'm never saying. Oh, never mind. I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, no! Just no one looking. I got really close and just put my face on my hand.
Chris is doing like his best 90s sitcom poster right now.
Yeah.
This fall on CBS.
Step by step.
Cute boys. So, no, it's like, I feel like I never see the same show twice.
That's true.
Does that make sense?
Because
it's like you're so interactive, and not in like a crowd worky way. In like you do this like such an interactive thing. I feel like the audience gets so much out of it because they're like, I know that no one else has seen that show except me.
Well, that and cause I think part of that is that I feel weird doing the exact like top to bottom same show twice, that I feel like I would just so I just need to interact.
You have to
with
do
people.
that for you.
Yeah,
I love that.
Me
too. I have to like surprise myself so that I don't go into this like rote like performance.
Well, yeah, because the like a really masterful comic can make something they've said a million times
sound like it's
brand new. And for me, I kind of need to. I need to use the audience to do that so that my energy presents the material in a new way. So because I just feel like, I still haven't reached that. I don't think I've reached that point where I could do a 60-minute set exactly the same every single time.
And why would you want to?
Yeah, I guess so.
Because I think for me, I was having a hard time figuring out the difference between, like, who am I doing this for?
Right.
Like, I never thought that I was really allowed to have a good time. I thought, like, I had to be perfect and everything had to be precise. And actually, of all the people in the world, my first special I did for Comedy Central, I don't know when this was, but Pauly Shore called me.
Yeah.
The night before. And I was like, this could go either way. And he said something that was so profound, at least to me at the time. It never occurred to me. He goes, tonight at your taping, which is you're doing your first hour special taping. Like,
right.
I have to do everything perfectly the way I practice it. I'm like practicing it in front of him, mirror and my hand gestures, everything's perfect. And he was like, do one take where you do everything completely different. You inflect words ways you've never inflected before. Like,
that's interesting.
Just mix everything up. Like, open with a different opener, close with a different closer, like something. And by some miracle, I had the gumption to do it. And it was so much better. I wasn't just going through the motions.
Well, yeah, because there's a difference between it's like scripted comedy and then like really that in the moment. But it can be so hard to follow stuff in the moment with your written material because when it's in the moment with the audience, it's about them.
Yes.
And then when you unplug that and you're like, here's what's crazy about, the bank. Then people are like, oh, unless they're bankers, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's not really about us.
How do you decide what you're going to talk about? Is like what annoys you the most, what haunts you the most?
Oh, God, I don't know. I just sort of make notes in Evernote all day. Not all day, but just, this kind of struck me as weird. It's not... like I remember when I first in college, I bought, Stand-Up Comedy, the book. What are 5 things you hate? Yeah. What are 5 things you love? And it just sort of gets you.
I need to read that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually
great.
tremendously helpful. And so now that we've been doing it for so long, the trick is, well, wait, some things that I think I have to make funny would be funny if I just got out of the way and just let myself be me, but I still have this thing in my brain like, how do I make this funny?
Totally.
And I don't know if that's the right question to be asking.
Right.
Other than
because it might just be inherently funny.
It might just be funny. I might be getting in the way of it.
It always surprises me because I've been, going up like just around like the comedy and store stuff, like working out new stuff because I'm doing a book tour, which is, I have to basically write.
Are you doing stand-up on the book tour?
Yes.
Cool.
I'm doing stand-up and then signing books after, but I have to have like a new hour in like 2 weeks. So if you could just forward me your Evernote, I'd really appreciate it.
20 minutes on raisins.
Yeah. Oh my God. What's the deal with starving yourself? I just am like going up and when sometimes you'll do a premise, like a setup, and they'll laugh at the setup and you're like, oh, well, wait till you hear the punchline. I feel like
you didn't like that part.
And then the punchline doesn't do as well. And you're like, oh, this was funny before I made a joke out of it.
I love that part because I love the discovery process.
Yeah.
Because I never know where
Yeah.
I mean, you're just mining,
Yeah.
and I never know exactly where the good parts are going to be, or maybe the thing I thought was going to be funny just gets me to riff something in the moment, and that's the funny thing.
Yes.
And so I love the experimentation process, but I honestly I never fully know what's gonna.
Well, my default is like too much. Do too much.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
too much icing on the cake, gild the lily. That's like my default. So it's like sometimes, like you just said, it's just getting out of the way of the premise. Like I'm working on this thing about Marilyn Monroe. Like I don't have the jokes yet, obviously, but there's this new thing where Marilyn Monroe is being like heralded as like a feminist hero.
Right.
When she was kind of just a fucking slob. Like literally all over Instagram, it's like Marilyn Monroe quote, and it's just like she was the Kim Kardashian of her day. Like, can we stop pretending she was fucking Gloria Steinem? And it's like the quotes actually just crack me up too. It's like it'll be like, always show up 2 hours late. It keep them waiting.
Right.
Right. It's like, you're an asshole. Like you're not a that's not feminism.
Well, it's the sort of romanticizing of this sort of the defining line for genius is that someone died.
Yeah, she's dead. That's what happened.
If she
dead.
had lived a long, full life,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
She's famous for standing over a fucking sewer grate.
And fucking the president.
And fucking, she
The
was
married
so
president.
slutty, the CIA had to kill her. That's how much of a whore she was.
Did you write that down?
So no, I have to write all that down
Great.
at some point. But it's like, I was just like, when did Marilyn Monroe become a fucking feminist here? And everyone's laughing, and then I'm like, oh shit, and then the jokes start bombing, So it's just figuring out like why something is funny and what everyone is already in someone's subconscious and just activating that.
Well, maybe is it possible that you land on that point instead of lead with it?
That's a good point. Just like flip it.
I mean, if people are
around.
laughing at that, what that
Yeah.
does is that it's sort of like rather than trying to
interesting.
work from that place,
Yeah.
if you know that it's going to end up there and like, oh, people are going to think that like, why is she a
Yeah.
feminist here?
Yeah.
Then it might force you to figure out how to write up to that point.
That's interesting.
And then once you have all those pieces built, you can flip it back. You know? Like you're sort of like reverse engineering it.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's like just like changing going up every night and doing a different iteration of it. And then I'm a little bit of a paranoid thing now where, like, do you ever think that people are just laughing at you because they've seen your show?
Even if they are, I don't care.
I don't either.
You know why? Because I feel like you've earned that credit.
That's true.
You've earned that credit by making people laugh before. And yes,
that's true.
It's not like you didn't earn it at some point.
Yeah.
And I think it's better to have an audience that's comfortable. I mean, it's great to go into it'd be great to I went into a biker bar, not my crowd, and I killed.
Yeah.
But it is also nice. You can have a much deeper dialogue with an audience who is familiar with you because they understand who you are.
I just have this paranoia. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. And they know why. It's even funnier because they know your point of view.
The trick is you
Interesting.
just have to be careful to know what that is. And then if you just go do 10 minutes at the Comedy Store for a random assortment of people, some of that stuff's not going to play because that audience isn't as familiar with
50 Germans.
So you just have to figure out how to
Well, it's
do
just
both.
so, like, I realized this the other night where I was like, it's paranoia. And I have spent so much time trying to convince people that I'm funny and trying to get them to laugh. And now that they're laughing, I'm like, don't mock me.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, that wasn't that funny. Like, now
Yeah.
I'm talking them out of it. So it's just like this weird trap of like, just let them laugh. You don't have to question
I love
laughing.
this premise. It's such a great premise, though. But it's also the Marilyn Monroe premise.
Oh, so
'Cause
stupid.
It's also like,
Yeah.
it's also like why, like the great feminist anthem is like, I am a woman, hear me roar, and not happy birthday, Mr. President.
Like, it's just...
That's not at any feminist rally.
Fucking mess. Fucking disaster. She's a disaster. She literally did nude photo shoots. Every character she plays in a movie is like borderline. I'm not allowed to say any of these words are too PC now, but she's like, what's happening? She's always lost.
Right.
She has no idea where she's going. She's like, oh, I married you by accident. I had no idea. She's like, and then she's like giving relationship advice. She had 3 husbands, like cheated on all, like why? I mean, that's my other thing is I feel like I need to just, in general, women need to stop taking advice from other single women. Like, I don't talk to single women anymore, like, about relationships at all. I'm like, you've lost. I only talk to married men, actually. So
Really?
I have some questions for you.
I'm happy to answer
only
any
people
questions.
I'm interested in.
But I just the idea of, someone maybe not necessarily being the person to look to advice if they're wiping pills out of their drawer.
I know. Oh, is that our feminist icon, the one who fucking choked on her own puke and the president's semen? Is this our hero? I feel like we can do better than this. Jane Goodall. I don't know. Like, I mean,
come on.
Is there somebody else?
Is there anyone else
Anybody
out there
else
who's devoted their life to humanity?
I don't think she's the one. The one who her main strategy in life was to be late on purpose.
Yeah.
She also had no respect for men. She's like, men, all you have to do is jiggle and you have them in the palm of your hand. It's like, how stupid. She's like sexist towards men. I don't think sexism towards men is feminism. What?
But it's like, she's not wrong about that. But, the idea that,
fine, she's a scientist.
Let's put her on money.
Yeah,
Let's
okay,
put her
fine.
on our money.
She should be on the 100.
But it's just like if you walked into a bar and saw some lady passed out in the corner, you wouldn't be like,
hey,
that woman is a hero.
I need your quotes. I'm posting them on Women Crush Wednesday. You are my hero. Posters on my dorm wall.
Okay, good quote. You don't fucking know me. Okay, great. That is a great quote.
You don't fucking know me. Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you
Random girl named Tammy in Fort Lauderdale.
You fucked Brad. I don't know Brad, but it's a great quote.
I feel like you really know what you're doing.
Seems very healthy.
We're eulogizing like a lot of these losers. She was a slob and she was a loser.
I love this. I mean,
dare I say, not that funny?
It's
not particularly talented. I don't know why we decided this trash person was gonna blow up my Instagram feed every Wednesday.
This makes me laugh so hard because of just like we're in a town where like that I've never heard that take on it before, and it's like she's on the sides of buildings, and then you're going, hey everyone, would you just look at what was going on?
Literally all she did was put on makeup and fuck guys. Why do we think she's some kind of legendary, empowering figure? You never see her in any photos with women. She had no friends. Every photo is like women looking at her like Sophia Loren.
Sophia Loren, yeah.
Yeah, like glaring at her. Bitch, she did not have any girlfriends. She was a mess. Not a fan. Like, who stands above a subway grate? She's blowing trash air into her genitals. I mean, she was just a pig.
Do you think
Marilyn Monroe's a pig?
Do you think? Wow.
I said it.
Oh my God, the gloves are off. Take that, Marilyn, and stay down.
I just I get like it's just sort of like I get why these stereotypes exist.
Right.
That's like when guys are like, oh, women are vapid and shallow. It's like, well, maybe stop posting Marilyn Monroe quotes. I don't know.
Do you think it's fun? Do you think? Would you ever come at it from the other angle where you're like, I think she's such an icon? No, I guess not, because you really don't feel that way.
I guess I don't know. I mean, I could definitely argue both sides just to be obnoxious, but I'm in my 30s and I'm already inherently obnoxious.
I love you saying she was the Kardashian. She was basically
she is. She's Amber Rose. She's basically the Amber Rose of the 70s. I don't even know when she was alive.
She died in 68.
Yeah. She may be like
64,
toward the end of her
65?
career, maybe like the Megan Fox of her day.
Katie, what do we got?
The internet's not working right now.
It is working.
It's really slow.
It's working on my.
On your phone.
I don't believe it.
No, it's
The
not.
internet in this
Nerdist
house.
Wi-Fi is lightning
is-
Oh, I've
fast.
been having trouble with it the whole time I've been here.
350 down, Katie. 350 down.
I mean, literally. Have you seen Some Like It Hot? I mean, it's a mess. And
Let's see what it is.
And there's all this sort of like glorifying of her because she had like mental illness and stuff, which is like, I'm sorry about that. That sounds terrible. I know she had a terrible childhood, Marilyn. I'm sorry, but you got to get your shit together.
1962.
That's when she died? Oh,
Yeah.
That was earlier.
Yeah, 1962. Oh yeah, the 7-year itch. Gentlemen prefer blondes.
If you opened your crotch to a subway gate, you would itch for 7 years too.
Is that in your your act?
No.
Fucking great joke.
I'm getting a lot of writing done.
You need to listen. You need to listen back to this and just like get all those little notes.
Okay.
That's a fantastic joke.
I mean, Marilyn Monroe, imperfection is beauty. Okay, I'm with you.
I like that.
Madness is genius. Until you drive into a crowd of people.
You know what though? That's what a young person says.
She's not very young. I don't know how old she was when she did this. Yeah, that's like glorifying madness. Okay. And it's better to be absolutely ridiculous than absolutely boring.
You know, that's how you were in your 20s, so maybe you should be Marilyn Monroe.
I mean, I don't know. Marilyn Manson, maybe. But just like glorifying, it's better to be ridiculous than absolutely boring. Well, you're fucking boring. What you didn't exactly give a speech that moved anyone. I don't remember your TED Talk, Marilyn. Like, you're known for taking your clothes off, but you're obviously fucking boring.
You know when Abraham Lincoln and Marilyn Monroe went all the way down Illinois and had those great debates about democracy?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Most of your quotes are about, your tits. So I don't know why
really sure.
Yeah. You, I think, are like known for being pretty boring.
I think there's a really great.
I'm going to work on this.
Oh wait, maybe there's like the name of the special is like Gentlemen Prefer.
Bombs.
You can't say bombs
because you're bombing.
Because you're bombing. Yeah.
Well, I do have this theory. I mean, I don't know. It's tricky. I'm dating someone. It's been 8 months and he's never seen me do stand up.
Oh, boy! The longer he doesn't see it, the more stressful it's going to be.
I know. Which, by the way, reminded me of, this is like slightly different, but sort of similar. I did this pilot and I had Jenna Jameson in it. Mm-hmm. And her husband, her Israeli diamond dealer husband and manager, didn't know who she was. And like 3 months in, she was like, "Baby, you should probably Google me."
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Can you imagine the love of your life and you find out she's Jenna Jameson?
I mean, that would never come up when you're dating.
Do you think he's lying? He said it in Israel, porn stars are not like a thing.
I totally buy that.
Yeah.
Totally buy that. But just seems like maybe she just assumed that he knew.
Yes, she did. And then she was like, I'm an author or something. I don't know, because I think that's what she goes by. Huh. And I was like in her house. Well, I don't know. Why wouldn't he have found out other ways? But then he took her out to like meet people, and they were like, "You know who that is, right?" And he was like, "What? My girl?"
I mean, you'd think if you came down to the kitchen and your partner could deep throat an entire eggplant, you'd go, "Hey,
She could eat a sundae in one bite. Didn't you kind of notice?
I mean, the writing was
how she just ate Coca-Colas.
This idea, I love this Marilyn Monroe bit because I think it sounds like it's the core of because what's great about it is that there are so many things thematically you can spin about your own mental illness and your own trying to like identity and feminism and all these wonderful points.
I think that at least in the United States, maybe just in my immediate, I think there's something happening where obviously I'm very pro women and feminism. That word now sort of has like a pejorative term, but I think that some people are conflating feminism with like entitlement. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my girlfriends who are very like, I'm girl power and like I am a girl boss and I am in charge. Like I'm a girl. They're just assholes. And like,
why?
Feminism doesn't mean that you get to be a dick. Like I have this one girlfriend who she's very big on like men respecting her.
Sure.
That's her whole thing. Men must respect me. She's got like really strong boundaries. And she this one guy who's great. She was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. It's like he just doesn't listen to me, and I need a man who like listens to me. And I was just like, but you're not interesting. Like, I don't know who. Feminism doesn't mean people have to listen to you talk about like celebrities' butts and like watch you take photos at dinner of yourself and like So it's like it's just tricky because I feel like I'm sexist or something if I point that out. But she, I think she's marketing it as I'm a feminist, but I'm like, no, feminism doesn't mean you get to like talk about your horoscope for 40 minutes and people have to listen. But it's like, I also think that part of equality means being judged equally,
Sure.
So it's like if you go on stage and get huge laughs by an audience and I go on stage and I don't get those laughs, like I'm not as funny as you. I'm just not.
Well, but
I don't know if that's sexism. I don't think I can blame anyone except myself because you got huge laughs and then I didn't. Maybe they're inherently sexist, the audience, but
I think there's so much more that makes a comedy show happen. It's like maybe another night you would get more laughs and I wouldn't because of the crowd. It's like maybe the crowd would. Like there's so many things that make up a specific. It's
That's true.
It's just not as black and white when you're just talking about. And I think part of the problem with comedy is that people just look at comedy as like such a black and white thing.
Yeah.
But there's so much subtlety and nuance and context and like who was the crowd, how long was the set, what happened before that. Like some crowds are just crappy, some crowds just like this. Sometimes you're just off. Like there's no.
Yeah, that's true. It's not. But I think this is actually one of the first any things I've done, interview, whatever, where the first question is, isn't it hard to be a woman in comedy? And I'm just sort of like, I don't feel oppressed right now, like I just feel like there's this sort of like, yes, being a comedian is hard for men and women. I think there's so many women succeeding at it right now. I just feel like it's a little bit like 90s to be like, it's so hard and everybody's so sexist. It's like, I don't know. I feel, like, I don't. It might be hard to be a man in comedy now. It's like I think it's harder for men.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm joking.
But I just think that I mean I just I don't know. I don't love that question because it feels very condescending to be like, as a woman, it's like,
so how are you handling this? I know it must be hard for you.
And also you're fucking funny and so I don't know. It's just a strange. I feel like the question itself is inherently condescending, even though I know it's not meant to.
And then the answer is actually just fucking ugly, too ugly, I think, for me, because it's like, oh, you really want to have this conversation about like how it is. The reasons that make it harder are actually just too incendiary to talk about, which is like, the reality is I'm slowly rotting from the inside and I can only have kids till a certain amount of time. And we are different in that way. Like no one will talk about how we actually are really biologically different because everyone's gonna be like, we're the same, everything's fine. It's like the reality is more like I feel like I have to get more done earlier in life so that I can have a kid, take a year off to have a kid, or because I just don't want to fuck up a kid the way I was fucked up. So It's like that, I think, to me, is the kind of the elephant in the living room about like, I have biological limitations that maybe guys just don't have.
But also the way that people approach it, it's so not the same. Like, when I see April, I'll see on April's feed all the time. She'll post something and people are, it's like if people want to heckle me, it's a complete. It doesn't tear at the core of my identity.
Yeah.
It's just and for her and for other comics, it's just so boring and hacky when people are just like, show me your tits. You're like, fucking really? This?
Yeah.
Seriously?
I get bummed when people don't ask me to do that. I'm like, no one wants to see them.
Everyone really needed to see the space work that went with that because there was like a casual looking at the fingernails. Like there was a really nice space work that went along with that.
I couldn't make eye contact with you. It's too vulnerable.
But just that idea of like, come on. And it's not even that she's like so deeply offended. It's just like, fucking really?
It's just a bummer.
It's just like that type of sexism or any other prejudice or race. It's like, it's just, it's at the core of it, it's so fucking hacky.
You know what I'm realizing?
Lazy, so fucking lazy.
You are blowing my mind because I'm just realizing how normalized that's become for me. Like, I forgot that was even something that everyone doesn't go. Like, it as you were talking, I was like, oh, well, I just don't look at my @replies anymore. It's not that they're not there. I have adapted to that feedback and the trolling by just avoiding certain things, and so I obscure them from myself. Doesn't mean they're not all still there, like I've had to sort of really play defense on that negativity, but it's a bummer because then you miss out on the positives too.
I have to send you an article that I was reading today.
Send it.
I have to send you an article. Oh, where was it? Oh, for shit's sake. I'm going to be so bummed if I lost the article. But the article was basically... Oh, here it is. It's called Why Hard Facts Aren't Enough to Alter Our Beliefs.
Send me that.
And I'm only about halfway through it now, but essentially what it's saying is that, and this... what I'm going to say is not going to be some great revelation, but people... they get rewarded for commenting. Social media, they get rewarded.
Of course,
their brain rewards them for sharing their opinion,
chiming in,
and they are further rewarded. Like as part of that process, they need to get a reaction.
Yes,
and so we have adapted. We are starting to adapt to get any reaction, no matter what it is. It's just like
Correct.
the spoil, like the kid who's being shitty and like knocking shit off the table.
Yeah.
I know what I'm saying. It's not a grand revelation, but there is actually science behind it, and that to me helps me cope a lot with like, why are people so awful? And it's like, it's their biological directive.
And I not a plug, but I've been, I talk about a lot of this in the book because learning neurology and reading stuff like that is actually what helped me find sanity and a modicum of serenity. Like a biological basis for this behavior was the only way that I could come to terms with a lot of this stuff. Like that's so true. And I also putting myself, my therapist who's like such a G, she is like 5'1". She only wears shirts with wolves airbrushed on them. She's amazing. And whenever I'm sort of complaining about somebody or I'm in an acrimonious relationship with someone at work and I'm like, and then he did this and then he said this and then he called me a bitch and then whatever, she'll just be like, sounds like he's in a lot of pain. Oh, no. And you're just like, fuck.
God damn it.
Because anger is just pain and we're all just 5 years old, right? Ultimately walking around in big adult suits.
God, it's so strange to me, and I don't understand what the evolutionary benefit is to a creature who constantly has to go back to that infant state. Like, what is the...
Well, our life expectancy is like supposed to be like 30. Right. We're living way too long.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
We're the fucking dude who won't leave Earth, the
we were
humanity's
supposed
couch.
to die at like 15.
Yeah, just like 2 more weeks until I get on my feet.
We're like synthetically extending our lives way past when we're meant to be. So our brains are just like... Yeah, we're and then this whole concept of like social construct of like adulthood and we're all like supposed to act a certain way. Like we're all just primal beings trying to be seen and loved and heard and fucked and eat thing. We're just animals ultimately.
Right.
And like I was reading this thing about humans and monkeys have closer DNA than the African elephant and the Indian elephant.
Oh, that's really...
We're just monkeys, ultimately.
Of course we are.
So
we're barely not
There's
chimps.
also the mob mentality, which is like when you're participating in a mob attack, that means that you're safe because you're not on the receiving end of the mob,
right.
which is like explains so much stuff. I'm not going to like simplify something as complicated as like the Holocaust and all that kind of stuff, but that like herd mentality, that pylon mentality.
Right.
And interestingly, in terms of back to stand-up, they say the reason that this neurologist that I was talking to, Luann Brizendine, she wrote that book, The Female Brain, and she says the reason public speaking is so scary is that from an evolutionary perspective, if you were talking to a group of people, it means you were about to be killed. You were defending yourself against a crowd.
Really?
Yes, that was about to kill you. You were exiled from the tribe, and you're against them, and you're begging for forgiveness or explaining yourself.
So we all get turned on, like from an evolutionary standpoint, standing at the precipice of death.
Exactly what it is. That's what stand-up is.
And coming through
Please
it.
Don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. That's what stand-up is.
Please like me. So
crazy,
really
crazy. And and there's this great article, I think it was in the Atlantic, I sound like such an asshole, that was about how now loneliness is more dangerous than smoking, because when you live alone, like we now live in these, we're designed to live in tribes, right? But we're all living in these little pods alone on our, and that it used to be when you lived alone, that means you were exiled or isolated from the tribe and you had no protection and you would most likely die.
Sure.
Because this is before alarm systems and
locks
on doors and stuff like that. So it's like your brain, your amygdala starts getting activated and you stop producing serotonin and stuff and you basically get depressed.
Well, and also I think much in the same way that you shouldn't inbreed because you need to mix genes.
Yeah.
You need to mix emotional genes with other people, because how many, when we're so isolated and we're just in our own thoughts and in our own worlds, and we live in this kind of where mathematically the internet's going to give you exactly what you believe already.
Always.
And you never have to travel outside your own bubble. You're not going to evolve. You're just going to get deeper and deeper and deeper
exactly
into this kind of mad cul-de-sac.
My guy just told me that he can change this, but I was like going on Huffington Post and I was like, look at Huffington Post covering all these rescue dog stories.
That's all they write about anymore, it turns out.
It's like they read my mind.
Oh my God.
And I literally am like, we are at war with North Korea and the main story is about this dog that got pulled out of a river. And I'm realizing they're just catering to my interests because there's all these algorithms basically guessing. There was that amazing article about how Amazon knew a girl was pregnant before she knew she was pregnant, because you Google it's an amazing article. I'll send it to you. So basically this teenage girl was Googling I feel sick when I wake up in the morning. And then she Googled, like, I have lower back pain.
Late period.
Late period. And then she, I want to say that her dad sued Amazon because she was getting advertisements for diapers. And he was like, my daughter's 15. What are you doing? You know, it was like something stupid. Because they just know everything about you all the time.
Right.
So that's left to my own devices. I'm just going to look at videos of dogs all day long and not learn anything new.
Yeah, so it's like, these algorithms are essentially helping us not evolve in any way
100%.
and also solidify our core beliefs because we need to see these things to support the things we already believe. And part of this article is also, it's trying to explain, like, look, if you want to break someone out of a core belief, even if you have hard evidence and they will go, that's just not, you made that up.
They will actually, I think, believe their belief more strongly.
Yes.
Yeah.
To protect their own belief system.
Ego.
I think that is so destructive, and the long-term effects of that are kind of terrifying. Like, I almost...
You mean... our election?
Come on. If you really want to...
Long-term effects. You mean right now?
If you want to use, like, a real world...
Yeah, like, for example...
Fine.
Maybe,
go
like,
ahead.
right now.
I mean...
Every morning. You're like, this is going to get bad at some point. Something terrible might happen.
I used to turn my phone off at night, and last night, this is 100% true, I left my phone on because I was like, well, if we get attacked by North Korea, I'm gonna need my phone to alert me that there are missiles coming.
So this is what it's come to.
This is what it's come to. Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's too much. Sorry.
So the book.
So anyway, we're fine.
No, by the way, and also, and congratulations on show running Roseanne's show.
Oh gosh, thank you. I'm doing it with the very great Bruce Helford, who ran the original.
Bruce.
Yeah.
And he do Drew Carey?
He did Drew Carey. He did
nice
Family
guy.
Ties, the nicest, super smart. It's a great room. Norm Macdonald is in there. Wanda Sykes is in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Morgan Murphy. It's a good group.
What an incredible...
I did 3 months writing on it, and then now I'm going to go to this book tour, so I'm taking like a month off, and then I'll be back in November for a shooting.
That's fantastic.
So
when does that come back?
We shoot in the next couple months, and then I think it's going to come on in February.
Okay.
On network television, ABC.
Fantastic.
I know, it was like, we really wanted to do this thing where we sort of like took a microscope to the people that voted for Trump and because, there's not a lot of working class people on television, which is crazy.
Right.
Because that's such a big part of our country. And it's sort of, sometimes television is a lot of like Harvard Lampoon guys just doing...
That's so specific. I know
it's
exactly what you
just
mean.
like doing Hemingway jokes,
Right.
like inside jokes that are just kind of,
and then kind of going, isn't it going to be funny when the audience doesn't get this?
It's going to be
Isn't it
awesome.
so funny how stupid people are? Like it comes from that place.
Yeah, let's do the coconut frozen yogurt joke.
So clever, you guys.
It's just like
We're so
It's just like
clever.
our circle jerk of our television.
I'm doing the space work of jerking off the person next to me.
He's jerking off the biggest dick I've ever not seen. It's big but very skinny. It's
that's
long
right.
and tiny, like asparagus dick.
It's like a pipeline.
I'm sorry,
It's like a little very...
I like that you don't want it near you.
No, it's back over here. I'm not even looking at it. I'm on my phone with my other hand, just looking up news stories.
There's also like a stuffed turkey under him.
Oh yeah.
So it's just kind of a lot to process.
Yes.
But yeah, so I am, and then I'm going to take some time off. I don't know if you're doing that. I'm going to go to try. Your face just.
I'm doing it too.
You're literally like time off. Well, do I still exist? If I'm not, that's my thing. If I'm not like somehow being recorded, do I exist at all?
I'm a shark. I gotta keep moving. I fucking hate when people go, I'm like a shark. I gotta keep moving.
What is
Fuck
this?
you.
70s?
Yeah, I know.
Who says that?
Just read The Art of War.
Good. That's upsetting.
I'm a war shark.
I'm trying to be, and after all the journeys I went on, which I outlined in this thing, I'm trying to kind of make sure that I'm okay with myself without constant attention.
Yeah.
And I have some stuff. Did I tell you about my ear? My ear got bitten off.
I knew that your ear got bitten off by a dog, and that your ear, but it doesn't.
You can't. I mean, ears are weird anyway. So.
If you just a tiny little piece.
It's
right
like,
there.
you know those at the Renaissance Festival when you put your hand in wax 100 times? It's like that. It just looks like melting candle.
So you got in a dog's face and the dog just decided, I'm not cool with this.
You know, I don't blame.
I know you love dogs.
I do. I rescue dogs, big deal. But and I had rescued this dog who had been taken from his mother too young, and he had sort of spatial issues, and he had been socialized, and he was like in a crate for 8 months, and he wasn't neutered. There's a litany of reasons this happened.
But who rescued who?
Put that on. I'm gonna put that in the closet with my rosé all day shirt.
I just wanted I don't want to interrupt the story, but just when you're making the Who Rescued Who bumper stickers, please make it Who Rescued Whom. Can we please just make it Who Rescued Whom?
Yes, no,
okay.
but not
anyway.
Whom rescued whom.
No.
Who rescued whom?
I believe that's correct grammar. I'm sure I'll be corrected. But anyway, so this dog.
By the way, I realized when I wrote my book that I'm legitimately illiterate. If you get nothing from this podcast, you get to walk away with the inspirational message that people who can't read can write books.
So back to the story that essentially highlighted a lot of your relationships in your 20s.
In my 20s, essentially that became the metaphor for my love addiction, and what made me realize, like, because it's not, love addiction is not about like being in a lot of relationships or whatever. It's about, not about how many you're in. It's about what happens when you're in them, right? Like a sense of urgency and rationalizing and minimizing negative behaviors and ignoring red flags and that sort of thing. And that's what I did with this dog. Like, I just had magical thinking around it. I let him in my bed. I'm very like alpha about training dogs. So I do all these things to make sure that they know I'm the alpha, and I didn't do any of them with this dog, and their mouth is their hands. So we were kind of playing, and I pushed him off me, and he just sort of like came in my ear, it came off my head.
No!
Yeah, came off my head. And it was weird because it's like, I mean, I'm sure, have you ever had like a intense injury?
Yeah, I mean, I've broken a collarbone, and I've,
Did
but
you
not
feel
like
pain right away?
No, there's like a weird shock.
Shock.
But the conscious part, my logical brain goes, this is gonna hurt in a second. Yeah.
You're like, this is gonna be bad.
Yeah. So you have to pick it up off the ground?
It's hanging. It is hanging.
And there's blood everywhere, clearly.
Well, it's interesting because as soon as it happened, I think our bodies are amazing. I could instantly like do parkour.
Sure.
Like I was holding the side of my head, and I just like jumped up and I walked in the mirror, and my brain, I guess I was just in so much denial or shock or something. I was like, my first thought was, this is so weird. I don't remember putting on earrings today.
Sure.
That was it. And then I saw, ears bleed. There was just such a shocking amount of blood. And I was like, I need to, find an emergency room. I started Googling, like the calmest I've ever been. I mean, I am such an anxious person when I am hemorrhaging.
But when you actually need to be focused, you can focus.
That's when I'm in a meditative state of nirvana. And then I got in the car, drove myself halfway to I'm a terrible driver. I was excellent. It was like Fast and Furious. Like I was just like weaving in and out of people. And then when I finally had help, that's when I felt the pain. But I felt it was like almost orgasmic. I actually watched, who was the girl who got her arm bitten off by a shark? Bethany something. The surfer.
Right.
She said the same thing. When her arm was bitten off, she heard the sound, but it felt like bliss, like orgasmic, because your body sends so many endorphins and dopamine to the area
to try to protect,
so that you keep fighting.
Right.
If you felt the pain, you would just drown.
Right.
So it was just like such an amazing thing. But then like all these crazy things happened at Cedars, and I was to anesthetize the ear is actually more painful than just doing it without anesthesia, because you have to put something about cartilage. You have to put needles like in every part of the laceration. So like it's actually better just not to anesthetize this thing. And the guy's behind me, and he's like sewing up my ear. And I was like, okay, can we just do a system where like you tell me like on 3 or after 3, like 1, 2, 3, just so I can be prepared. And he just kept doing it without telling me. And I was like, dude, I'm freaking out. And it's like you have someone behind you, and your primal brain is just like,
and your ears hanging off your head.
And your ears hang, and you're like in fight or flight mode, and so then the entire time. It turns out the only thing that is worse than having my ear bitten off is like me not feeling heard.
Right.
It's like Valerie Cherish in The Comeback. I was like, I just need to know I'm being heard. And he wasn't paying any attention to me, and it was like this really emotionally jarring, like scarring experience. And then I'm crying because I'm like, he's not respecting me and he's not listening to me. And the next day my friend Dory calls the surgeon to tell him, like, ask, when can she take the stitches out or when can she come back? And the nurse is like, oh, actually he can't talk on the phone. He's deaf.
What?
And I was like, could someone have told me? What is this dog and pony show? Yeah, it was just ridiculous. It was just a ridiculous situation. Oh, and this is another thing. I think this is an only in LA moment. He looked at my ear and he's like, we need to get a plastic surgeon in here ASAP. So do you have one that you prefer? I was like, thank you.
I got a whole contact group.
Yeah, like I don't like. Is that just an LA
Just a thing.
Yeah,
I guess it's just a thing.
Thank you.
It's just a thing
I guess
that people
that's
have.
a compliment.
But everything's okay now.
Everything's fine. Yeah, I'm so, well, but I've had to. When the nerves grow back, that's when it actually hurts the most. So it's hurting the most actually now, and I can't sleep on it. So I'm just going to take some time off to do another surgery, and then try to not get a Percocet addiction.
Oh my god!
I know. It's like God.
Jesus.
I know. It hurts so bad.
Oh no.
Yeah, because they have to cartilage is just a bitch, and you only have 4 hours before it dies. So that was a whole thing, and I almost missed it. And it was just so funny. And then I went back to another surgeon. He looked at it, and he's like, "Oh, it took. I didn't think it was going to take."
Oh, Jesus.
I was
good.
You didn't think it was going to take?
We're not going to tell you that.
Like, what? Yeah, so I'm just trying to, take care of it and not mess it up. Because if you screw it up, and it'll get worse, and your cartilage dies.
Well, personally, you can't see it.
Look, I have a hook. That's my new hook.
But it's fucking cool.
It's like a little elfin thing.
It is really cool, though.
Thank you.
I mean, how many people can say that, they had their ear bitten off by it?
Oscar De La Hoya.
But
and me. That's it, I think.
No, it was Holyfield, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it was
I don't know
Evander
anything about
Holyfield.
sports.
I don't either, but for some reason I knew that.
Yeah, because everybody does.
I don't know why. I honestly don't know why.
That was shameful of me.
So your book, I'm Fine and Other Lies,
Yep.
is available.
It's available.
Wherever books are sold.
Wherever, fine stores.
Did you do the audio version?
Hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Had 2 emotional meltdowns.
Oh, no.
Yes, I was stuttering. I just couldn't do it. I was getting lockjaw. It was awful.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
But you did it.
It took me 7 days to do it. Yes, I did it. I cried in it. I was it was a nightmare. But yes, I got through it.
What a great therapy thing, though.
It was kind of therapeutic. But I think something I was going to say about stand-up, in you performing, is when you're reading the audiobook and it's locked, it's so frustrating.
Oh, right.
Because you just I have all these new jokes that I want to change all this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, you want to work.
I'm like, can we change this? They're like, no. I kept trying to change it. And there's a certain point where you just have to commit to it, which is just kind of hard.
Yeah. I would have just changed it.
Yeah,
I would have just been like, I don't give a shit.
I was changing things up to the wire, and they got to the point to where they were just like, "You're a nightmare." But yes, I did all that, and I'm really scared. I mean, I'm scared. It's like publishing a diary or something,
Yes, and I understand that, and I understand the the emotional vulnerability. But what I think is really important to understand is that it legitimately will help. You will get emails from people who say, "I thought I," and that's why I love to talk about dysfunction on this podcast and mental illness and stuff and addiction, because anything that we can do to normalize it so people don't feel so like aliens, so they just feel like, oh, okay, well, this is just a thing, and I can deal with it and get it and work on it, and it's okay.
Addiction tells us we're the only ones,
right,
that have it, right? And it's a disease that tells us we don't have a disease and all that stuff. So it's I wrote an article for Lena Dunham's site, that Lenny letter thing, on my struggle with codependence, and part of the reason I didn't talk about it for so long is because I was like, well, it's not like I'm passed out in a gutter. I was just part of the disease is minimizing it and being like, oh, I'm being dramatic or I'm being crazy or whatever. And I talked about it, and I had people coming up to me in airports with tears in their eyes, thank you, I had no idea this was something.
It really does help people, or at least go, oh, this sounds familiar to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's okay to go get help. Maybe it's all right to get help and try to get better.
And there is help that's free.
Well, and because you get so used to your own thing that if you've never really taken that step before, you just think, oh, this chaos is just my life. This is normal.
Yes.
It's normal to, I have a series of habits and patterns that I use to cope with the day. And, realizing that you can unravel that if you want to and work on it, and so it just doesn't really occur to some people.
And rewrite your story. Yeah.
Sure.
It doesn't occur. It's you can go to the gym and change your body, but I didn't realize I could change my brain and my inner monologue and the way I think and all that. And I was reading all these self-help books, and I was like, why are these so fucking boring? What if someone made a funny one that had all the same information and science stuff and all the stuff that we're talking about, then it actually was a joy to read. It's I can't cure my depression with a book that's fucking depressing.
Right.
I was just God, a book about mental illness being a bummer is just so anathema to the whole point of it.
Right.
And I was let me just write the book that I wish had been available to me when I was 20.
Do you have another special coming up soon?
I am gonna do it next year. I think I took a break.
And take another one if you need to.
There's this thing where it's do a special every year thing. And
no.
It's
no.
I want to make it good and just wait.
Yeah, I'm on the 3-year plan.
Good, that's what you should.
That's a fine plan. Maybe even 4. No, I think it was 4 years, and that's great because it just, for me anyway, it's the pressure of.
Ugh.
can't turn it. If I only did stand up, if you only did stand up, maybe. But I still think 2 years is the min.
The min, and because it's like, what is the rush? I mean, it's really just, for me, it's part of my, like, a codependent relapse. You're like, well, she's doing this thing, and he's doing this thing, and he's doing a special now, and I should be doing it.
The word is special, as in,
Nailed it.
It's not special if you do it
They're not special anymore.
Yeah.
I turned on someone's comedy special the other day, and they were wearing shorts. I was like, what happened to class? It was unbelievable. And then the audience...
I'm going to do a casual. I'm recording my casual. I'm recording my casual this week.
So the comic was in shorts, and then they turn around to the audience, and they're all in jerseys and tank tops. I was like, this is disgusting. Let's just fucking class it up. And I think for me, I want to make sure, because my workaholism is so intense of, like, my self-esteem, having a linear relationship with what I make, I just wanted to be able to, like, go without it and see if I could be okay with myself, and then do it for the right reasons.
Well, I'm so excited for you and proud for you, and I just adore you. As a human, I just adore you as a human being,
nice.
And I'm so glad that we're friends, and I love that we just text each other dumb shit every once in a while.
And you're like, and this is getting so corny, but like, you are such a big inspiration to me because you are in such an amazing relationship. I didn't realize, I think I justified for a long time, like, oh, I can't be in a healthy romantic relationship because comics aren't just, I've never seen that before. And I see you and Lydia, and I'm just like, I remember us like a couple years ago, like on tour, like talking about it, and I'm being like, oh yeah, see, no one's, this is normal. We just get to be in shitty relationships. And then you like found this amazing person and have this amazing thing, and I'm like, oh, I really don't have any excuses anymore.
Well, it took some adjustment from to be okay with the.
And she adores you, and I'm like, how's he coping with that?
Well, it is sort of weird when. I mean, look, I don't know, not to get too granular on it, but when someone's just being in a situation where she's really cool, and and when you have issues where you're like, well, I don't deserve good thing, like I gotta break everything.
When's the shoe gonna drop?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me fuck this up before it.
Exactly. And she wakes up in the morning, she's like, I love you so much, and I'm like, you're not feeling well. Should we get you to a doctor?
Are you a Scientologist?
Yeah.
What's happening?
You're trying to sign me up for something? This is all ruse.
This is
I knew it.
Yeah, I mean that damn
Breakfast at the Celebrity Center. I knew it.
Oh wait, does that mean I'm a celebrity?
Oh shit. I'm gonna get the cool part.
Thank God! Oh, thank God! Oh, my God!
Okay, great.
I know that's what happened to me when I found out I was on the Star Tour lines. I was so excited, and then I was like, "No, this is dangerous, you narcissist." But yeah, and I was just like, "Okay, like this is possible for me."
Yeah.
And I don't have to isolate because of this false. What we're just talking about, this false sort of story that like comedians don't get to have healthy relationships.
Right. Yeah, that's all a thing that we tell ourselves because it's easier to just say that and write it off than actually.
And it seems like you work really hard to be happy and to like milk every moment of your life in an amazing way.
Well, for me, happiness, I mean, I'm not saying this is for everybody, but happiness really is a choice that you have to, because it's so easy. It's so lazy just to be like, everything sucks and I fucking suck and this is what and it's really, and even when you're succeeding, and this is obviously this is a very privileged point of view, but when you're succeeding, you kind of can get harder on yourself because you're like, well, I'm gonna fuck this up, or I don't deserve this, or everyone's gonna find out I'm a piece of shit. It's like all these horrible things this horrible internal narrative that all goes back to when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Then like that's an interesting thing to navigate too. That you really just need to remember, like, hey, it's okay, you're okay.
Well, we were talking about this herd mentality. I think being around comics, most comics, a lot of them are very negative, and to fit in, it's like, well, I should be negative too. And being friends with you and knowing you has been such a relief because it's like you're so positive, and I don't have to be like, oh, everything sucks and everything, in order to have a conversation with you. It's like when we were touring one time, there's a couple comics that I think I annoy them because I'm trying to get better, right? When you get healthy, the sick get angry. And it's like, I'm like, I guess I just have to risk not being liked by this person because I'm not going to get sucked into their negativity trap.
Sure.
They perceive it as a rejection when, they're complaining about stuff. But it's just so nice to have a comedian who's committed to edification and positivity because otherwise I'd be stuck in that.
Yeah, it's really important. And I guess, if pursuing happiness and trying to be healthy means that I'm going to be less funny, then I guess I'm just going to be less funny.
Yeah.
Like I would rather, at this point in my life, I would rather be happy and not like,
happy bombing.
He's so fucking funny and but not doing great backstage. Like I don't need that. I just don't want that.
Yeah, so
I want to be a better partner to my wife. I want to be a good person.
There's a certain point. There was a big part of my growth where I was like, I'm going to risk not being in with the cool crowd.
Right.
For my own sanity and mental health.
Yeah.
Like, I just want everyone to accept me and love me at the expense of my own.
The cool crowd's not happy anyway.
Yeah, oh, they're miserable. They're not cool. Like, negativity is not cool.
It's not cool.
Like, but
It's
you
a
also
choice.
prove that. Like, being positive can be cool. What is this 90s thing of, like...
Just a choice.
The guys that make Fs are the cool kids, you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
you.
I adore you.
You're the best.
Please
Thank
come
you.
back and safe travels. And I hope to see you after you go on your sabbatical.
And your tour is coming up too.
Yeah. I'm doing some shows, but it's
Yeah.
not really like I'm just going out back and forth.
Yeah, just trying
Trying to remember how to get on stage and say things at people.
All right, please write a book about your marriage. I will read it.
Lydia should write it. She's the
Yeah, she
healthier
should.
one.
Yeah, agreed. I'm the healthier one by Lydia.
Yeah, I would do the introduction.
Yeah, totally.
So fully support.
Cosign.
Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
All right, enjoy your burrito, everyone.
Now leaving Nerdist.com. Enjoy your burrito.